Hi, this video is about the dentist's legal responsibilities to the patient. The dentist has numerous responsibilities to the patient. Listed here are some of them. They have to be proper licensed for what they're doing. They have to have the skill in the care and the judgment. They don't abandon the patient. They have standard techniques. They have reasonable time that this procedure is going to be done in. The patient's privacy is protected. They have adequate instructions, post-op instructions, and reasonable fees. There's a standard of care. The law says that you have to provide a standard of care, which is whatever current techniques are out there used by all the other dentists in the area. That's the standard. For example, there's a legal case where a dentist was using paper clips in root canals instead of the acceptable gutta percha material. Years ago, they used to use stainless steel post, and so I think the thought process probably was behind the paper clip that you could use this paper clip. This is not acceptable. The doctor was charged, and I'm assuming the doctor lost their license. The patient's responsibility to the dentist. When the dentist tells you you have to do certain post-op instructions, certain oral care instructions, we're assuming that they're going to be followed. This is, for example, if you're going to have a tooth extracted, there's a lot of post-op instructions. Bite on the gauze, no smoking, nothing hot or cold. This is for your benefit. If you don't follow that, you're going to end up with complications. We're going to assume the doctor's going to assume that you're going to keep your appointments. There's a fee that's going to be paid, and also that you're going to be truthful on your health history or any administrative. If you're going to be billed for this, or we have a question, we want to follow up on you, your phone numbers that you provide are correct. The address you provide are correct. Health histories, very important. Somebody with diabetes, say, sometimes they have a slow process of healing, and the doctor will want to know that if they're doing any kind of surgery. If you have any kind of complications, the doctor needs to know that before they go on with their treatment. Informed consent. If you're going to do something like an extraction or a root canal, you have to sit down with the patient and you have to give them all the risk factors, or an extraction. This is what's going to happen. You come in, your face is swollen, we take an x-ray, you have an abscessed tooth. These are your options. You can have the tooth extracted, you can have a root canal and save the tooth, or you can leave it alone. But if you left it alone, that infection is going to spread, your face is going to swell, and it cannot possibly even lead to death. Those are your things. Patient will make their choice, and then they have to sign the consent form, and you have to document it in the chart. There's also implied consent. The patient walks into the office, sits down, opens their mouth. They are implying, I would like you to examine my mouth. I would like you to tell me what's going on. It does not imply that I want you to do a root canal. It just means I'm implying that you want to do an exam, a diagnosis, and then a consultation. However, in cases of emergency, we're going to imply that there's an assumption that the patient wants to live. There's an assumption that we want the best for the patient in an emergency situation. So the patient's in danger of death or serious body harm. It's going to be able to can't give consent form verbally or written. We're going to assume, and so emergency treatment is going to be taken. This also applies for any kind of a minor and the parent is not there. We're going to assume that we want them to stop the bleeding. We want to suture that up. The patient will be fine. Written consent forms. There's written consent forms, especially for any procedures that have complications like surgery or root canals or implants or general anesthesia, or prolonged treatment such as ortho that might take 2 or 3 years. You're going to go over all the pros and the cons. The patient's going to sign it. This is also true for any kind of experimental treatment. This is a new treatment that we're trying out. And so you have to sign it saying, okay, that's not the standard of care. This is something new. I understand it's new on the market, and when you're trying, you think, and you're recommending for my case, it would be good. Photos, sometimes photos are used of the patients, might be used in advertising or for an example, or just putting up in a waiting room. These are our patients. Anything like that has to be signed. You also have to provide adequate instructions. This is written and verbal, and you have to consider those that speak a different language or those that might have might be blind and cannot read the writing, or might be deaf and cannot hear the oral instructions. So it has to be written and verbal, and plus in the language that the patient or their caretaker can understand. So you might have a translator there, and then the translator, this was given to the translator and given out written and verbally.